work at the Lawrence General Hospital. Hey, everybody. I have the biggest treat for you tonight. Not only is tomorrow the last day of Women's History Month, we have 3 kick-ass authors here tonight, and I couldn't be more excited to talk with them, chat, just like we're sitting around with a bunch of girls chit-chatting. So first off, we're going to introduce the books by title. Agatha Art is Afraid of Everything. This book is hilarious. We all need funny right now. I don't know what happened to Thursday night television and good books like this that we need, but this is amazing. Welcome, Kristin Bair. Can you tell us an elevator pitch about why everybody should want and buy this book?
Absolutely. So Agatha Art has spent her entire life afraid of everything. Aliens, the dark, shadows, bugs, you name it, she's afraid of it. Her husband Dax has always been her buffer. In the opening scene, she catches Dax fooling around with the local dog walker in the shed. She takes a hatchet to the shed, nobody dies, and she sets off on her journey to overcome her fears.
Fun. And that's just how it starts off.
That's just the beginning.
I think it's a perfect book for this pandemic too, because I feel like people get afraid of everything because they have no control over everything. And I don't know if you know, but there's a pandemic going on. And
I had not heard that.
Yeah, so you have to be careful, and you have no control over your life right now. So thank you, Kristin.
You are welcome.
We have the baddest girl on the planet, Heather Frese. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about your book and why it's the baddest girl on the planet.
Yeah, well, Evie Austin, who is a native of Hatteras Island, North Carolina, has been told that she's a bad girl, but maybe that's not such a bad thing. So when Evie is about 9 years old, she meets Charlotte, who is a little tourist girl from Ohio, and Evie goes back to Ohio with Charlotte, where they meet Mike Tyson, who happens to train in Charlotte's small town. Now, Evie, this is like 1999, Evie romanticizes Mike Tyson because, I mean, he's this big famous boxer dude who is watching her do cartwheels on the lawn and clapping for her. And so she goes home to her little island and tells all of her friends and brags about him and is the toast of the town for about a year until her friends find out about Mike Tyson's rape charges. And what follows is sort of a collision course with Evie and getting a bad reputation. And in Evie's mind, at least, it completely coincides with Mike Tyson's downfall. So what follows after that is sort of a non-chronological look at these series of detours that Evie's life takes with her career snafus and romantic relationships. And we sort of watch her navigate relationships in her life and to finally learn to like look within herself to redefine what it means to be bad.
And again, perfect timing for this book with everything going on too. Life is changing. Relationships are changing. People are finding their priorities are different, and priorities include relationships. Mm-hmm. And obviously, I don't know the alphabet because Annie and the wolves should have come second because I was doing alphabetical order according to title. So I'm dumb. But we have Andromeda. I knew I would mess this up.
We did it.
Andromeda Lax is here, and I am so excited. You got your haircut since the back cover, and you're gorgeous. And tell us about your book.
This is pandemic hair, by the way. I cut it really short at the beginning when I was feeling very adventurous. It was a mistake. I'm growing it back out. I will make this very short because we're really looking forward to getting into conversation. But Annie and the Wolves is about a modern day historian named Ruth who finds her life increasingly intertwined with that of her subject, Annie Oakley. And although the two women are separated by more than a century, they have some strange parallels, including the fact that Annie Oakley was involved in a head-on train collision. Ruth is involved in a car accident as the novel opens. And on the moment of impact, she has what seems to be a vision predicting that an act of violence is going to come to her small Minnesota town. So from the cover, it looks like a historical novel, and there's maybe about a quarter of the novel that is actually based on the real Annie Oakley, but 3/4 of the novel is really set in the modern day and is more of a mystery thriller with some speculative elements. And I would say that one of the themes is about this question of the desire for revenge, which I will bring up tonight because there are many ways to get revenge, which include a hatchet against a shed, driving up someone's hotel bills, and spoiler, time travel can sometimes help with that.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. So all three of you look like ladies, nice, normal. I'd meet you on the street and be like, oh, well, for coffee. You're all far from that. No, we had a lively conversation before we got out of the green room here. And we were talking, it felt like you all were good friends from way before. So let's talk about that. You met all on Facebook and you've all read each other's books. Tell us a little bit how you met on Facebook.
Can I just say, I see their faces and I feel happy because I've never spoken with Heather or Kristin, but I've seen them so often on Instagram and Facebook. I'm like, here they are. So I have to say, they all complain about social media, but it just warms my heart to actually see them both here.
I know. And hear your voices Facebook, too.
Come to life.
Yes.
Real.
Zoom is good for something. It really is. You know? None of us are wearing pants, by the way. Whatever.
Nobody stand up.
No stand up.
Or everybody stand up. One of those two.
And we know a lot of people in the group too. We recognize a lot of these names that we also spend time with on Instagram and Facebook. So it's nice.
That's fantastic.
We actually all met in these, it's either one or two groups where novelists who have novels, you know, coming out in the coming months kind of get together and talk about marketing and publicity and the woes and the strife and the excitement and the nerves and all the things. And we've gotten to know each other, you know, pretty well in that group.
That's amazing.
Super helpful.
Do you find that the book world is so inclusive and so wonderful? Like, what can I do to help you? Because that's been my experience. I was in the medical field before. There's a hierarchy there. There's competition there with the RNs and the LPNs and, oh, you're this and you're that. But in this group, not one of us know math or IT. Is this correct, ladies?
I can do second grade math.
I know a little math.
I can do math.
Well, you two are the abnormalities. Heather and I we can't add even with a calculator. So there's that. But when you're meeting people, when you first published your first book and your first essays or anything that you published, what was the response? Kristin, let's go with you. What was your first response when you met people in the literary world? And I want you to tell us like how enveloping it was.
Well, my first novel came out in 2009, and it met with a wonderfully warm community of people, who many of whom are still involved in my life, you know, which is the best part, is that people stick around, you know, whether they're readers and they keep coming back for each one, or we have a deeper relationship than that, you know, emailing and checking up on each other and that kind of thing. So yeah, absolutely.
And Andromeda.
I would say, so I was a nonfiction writer, a journalist before I turned suddenly to fiction after 9/11. And that was actually the event that made me say, if I only had another week to live, how would I want to spend it? And it was, I decided to start writing fiction. But so when my first novel came out, that was extra exciting because although I'd done a nonfiction book before then, it was this community that was surprised, like, wait, we thought we knew who you were, and now you're doing this completely different thing. But what's been new for me with COVID especially, I'm paying more attention to other writers right as their books come out. I mean, maybe we're all doing this more because it feels like independent bookstores need a push. Each individual author, as she or he comes out, needs a push. And so it's not only that you're supporting people, I mean, you're also excited as a reader. You feel like here's a great new wave of books coming in that I can enjoy, but you're also wanting to support people. So maybe that's why it's different from other industries. We kind of all get our little bit of a turn, and we all, I think, enjoy helping promote each other's works or just spreading the word. It's something we can do, you know, when it's not the week that our book comes out.
And I think too that it's just easier because of Zoom to connect with people that would have been harder to connect with, because we can do this very thing. We can get together and chit chat.
Yes, because you're in New England, you're in British Columbia, and you're in Raleigh, and I'm in Wake Forest. So yes, we're all over. We wouldn't be able to do this. A lot of travel. I have so many. This is the pandemic, people.
That is the oldest one he knows. It's not even a baby.
He wants to be a superstar. He wants to be the baddest boy on the planet.
Yeah, he's running for it right now. Come on.
Oh, that's great.
Supposed to be out of the house.
Oh, well, we're unpredictable.
Oh,
So what do you think, Heather? How has your reception been with this new book?
Oh yeah, it's been amazing. This is my debut novel, so
Yeah.
I've done essays and stories and stuff before, but this is my first book, and I've just been really blown away. Like, it's so exciting and so much fun. I feel like you go through like years and years of rejection and critique and rejection and more rejection, and then finally like it's here and people like it and people want to read it and people want to support you, and it's just like it's just like a party now. Like, it's been wonderful. It's like, it's so much fun. Like, oh, this is the good part.
It is the good part.
The Zoom stuff has been helpful for me in the sense that like I hadn't really been able to connect much in person with literary events for the past several years because of those guys. So it's helped. I've been able to like turn one of these on while I'm cooking dinner and reconnect with that part of myself. So in that way, pandemic life, but it's been good for getting to reconnect that way.
At the beginning of the pandemic, I felt bad for people who were putting their book out there because it kind of got glossed over because people weren't really reading. They were going into short stories or magazines because they just didn't have the attention span. But now they're really embracing it. The last 9 months have been huge, and small books have just blown up, and the promotion and the online community has been wonderful. I do find we don't have many problems coming into the store. Most of the people that come in they're readers. They don't like the drama. They love to read and talk about reading. So I feel like that's a huge connection with all of us because we would rather talk about books than people. So I love that. You were all talking too about you all share an obsession. Is it milk duds? No?
It's each of our characters in our book has a celebrity obsession, which was one of the things that connected us in the first place. Heather reached out to me when she realized that Agatha Arch is obsessed with the adventure survivalist Bear Grylls. I don't know if anybody out there knows Bear Grylls, but Agatha, who is very timid and afraid of everything, really looks up to him, and she actually carries around a Bear Grylls bobblehead as kind of her little token that she turns to when she needs a little boost of strength.
But she needs to take a little bite out of his foot.
She does. She stuffs him into a Kleenex box head first. Like, get in there. So he goes through a lot, but yeah, she is obsessed.
Is there something you want to tell us about your obsession?
I'm a little obsessed with Bear Grylls too.
Do you bite his foot? Do you carry him around?
If he came along, you never know what might happen. But her obsession started probably with my obsession. But yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And in Andromeda?
Well, so my character is a historian obsessed with Annie Oakley, and I was not obsessed with Annie Oakley at all. I just happened to stumble upon, 10 years ago, I stumbled upon actually a quite serious story that Annie Oakley, when she was a young girl, her father died, her mother couldn't afford to keep her at home, sent her off to an infirmary, and from there they sent her to live off with this couple that were she only referred to them as the Wolves, an abusive couple. She lived basically as a captive for 2 years. So my historian is obsessed with Annie Oakley, and that has more to do with secrets in her own life, things she's not facing in her own life than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's mine. So after Heather goes, I'm kind of curious about this, about like why we use characters who are obsessed with other people, what that accomplishes in a story. But go ahead, Heather, because I'm also dying to know how you started. Mike Tyson.
Yeah, I also have absolutely no personal connection or obsession with Mike Tyson. Never really thought twice about him, but I was out to lunch a long time ago, years ago, before children, like one of those nice long, like 3-hour lunches at Red Lobster with my friends from grad school. And one of my friends, Sarah, just casually drops in this little tidbit that she was like, yeah, she knew Mike Tyson when she was a kid. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, she grew up in Ohio. And she was like, yeah, Don King lived in my town, and he promoted Mike Tyson at the time, and he had this training camp set up, like, kind of next door. And so I would go turn cartwheels on Don King's front lawn, and Mike Tyson would like watch us and clap. And I thought she thought he was great. And then she was talking about how she was so disappointed in him when the rape charges came about, and then like the Evander Holyfield, all of that, just like this disappointment that she felt because she felt this connection with Mike Tyson, and she like built him up in her mind, and it was just so like so weird and funny and like just bizarre to me. I was like, can I write about that? And she's like, yeah, sure. So like she was just like one of the people that lived there in the town with them, so like nobody, you know, they were all in it together. But I thought to myself, like, what if this happened to someone who lived, you know, on Hatteras Island and went home and bragged about it to all their friends? And so honestly, like Mike Tyson kind of started off the whole book, so
Yeah,
thanks to him for that.
There you go.
See, that's what's interesting to me. I'm sorry, it's not Heather's, it's her character's. Sorry, obsession creates a problem for the character. Same thing with mine, but Kristin, your character's obsession, it actually is giving your character strength.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't come along. Bair didn't start the novel. I realized, I don't know how far in, that she needed something. She needed some, you know, token of strength that would kind of help her in her weakest moments when she was going to, you know, do one of these crazy things that she does out of fear. And my first thought was Steve Irwin. I don't know how many of you know who Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter who was killed by the stingray. I forget how many years ago. Because I loved him too. I was really, these people who go out and like wrestle animals and save things, I don't know. I get interested in them. But I wanted to be somebody who was still around, who could really, you know, although I think I thanked Steve Irwin in my acknowledgements. Because he was the first. Yeah, so he actually helps her. He helps her in a lot of different ways.
Yes. Did you have anything else in common when you were reading each other's books where you're like, oh, this is very similar, or like an aha moment when you were reading somebody else's book? Or one of your other?
I think there's women's anger that is a common thread that drives these books
I found that too.
forward. Yep.
And there is a lot of women's anger right now. You know, after a few years, it's going backwards. I feel like we need to get that out. And I think people can relate to your characters. And that's why these books are getting so much buzz and so much earnest. People want to read them, and because they relate. How did you come up with that thought, besides knowing somebody who knew Mike Tyson? And the only thing I can picture is him in that movie, you know, when he does the drum roll. So, because in the tattoos all over his face.
Yeah.
Oh, it was the Hangover.
The Hangover, yeah. Tiger, was it a tiger?
Yeah, they went to Las Vegas, and he had a tiger in his bathroom, and he was playing the drums.
I don't know this movie at all.
He redeemed himself in The Hangover. So it's a silly movie from 10 years ago, I think. So maybe even longer. So how did you come up with that, Heather?
Yeah, well, when I started writing it, I wanted to write what I thought was this little short piece about, so Evie Austin is my main character, and I wanted to write about her divorce and what prompts her to get a divorce, because I knew she ends up leaving this, you know, scumbag husband that she has, but I didn't know how, and I wanted to write about that, and I had that little Mike Tyson tidbit, and so I wanted to work those two together, because Evie isn't this, like, she's an interesting, feisty character, and so she wasn't just gonna like sit around and wait for her marriage to dissolve. Like, she was gonna like blow that sucker up herself. And so I sort of used, you know, boxing, fighting, Mike Tyson as a theme and a metaphor in that piece, for how Evie is like just like going to town on her marriage, doing everything she can to just kind of blow that sucker up on her own. And so that's kind of how I started putting those two things together. And then I started to play with sort of the idea of badness itself, like what it means. Like, she ends up getting this bad reputation. She ends up being like the bad girl. And of course, Mike Tyson was called the baddest man on the planet. And so that's how even the title came into it, and sort of thematically wove throughout the whole book that way.
And Andromeda,
I relate to the blowing her life up kind. I think that's what I see in all three books too. So it's not just that something has happened to a woman, or not just one moment of I'm going to get back at this person. These are characters who are like, okay, I'm going to go big with this, and they're going to create all kinds of problems for themselves. And so for me, it's not my Annie Oakley character has a desire for revenge, but my historian character like some of these other characters, she has messed up everything. She's had professional setbacks, failed on a publishing contract, broken up with a fiance. You know, everything has fallen apart for her, and she's gonna take it down to the deepest, darkest place. And yeah, I see some of that happening in these other books too.
Yes. And I love that because it's not the woman being the victim either. You know, these people are constantly changing. They're trying to figure out their lives. And I think we're all kind of feel like that, you know, especially in your 20s, and then you gradually change and grow. But yeah, I totally see that in all three books.
I think we're meeting all these women just when they get to the point when other people may start thinking that they're going a little bit crazy, you know.
Yeah.
Taking it a little too
Yeah,
far.
that's true.
Aren't we all going a little bit crazy?
Yeah.
Haven't we gone a little bit crazy?
Yeah. And do you know anybody that's normal? The more you get to know people, like nobody had a normal childhood. Nobody is normal, you know, but that's what makes us unique. And it's the people that try to be normal so much that are just whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the
So-
movie Woman on the Verge of a Breakdown. Jay just introduced that in the comments.
I've never heard of that.
I remember that one.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I know that when I'm reading and something happens to a woman in a book and she doesn't respond in a way that I feel is authentic, that,
Mhm.
you know, that she's holding back and this kind of way that women are kind of presented, I get really pissed. I'm just like,
Me
this
too.
is not what this woman would do. And I used to be more patient with that, I think, as a reader. And as I've gotten older, I'm just like, not buying it. Not buying it. I don't think this woman would do that. You know.
So I feel the exact same way. And we talk about this one book that's been on the bestseller list for 3 years and just came out in paperback, and everybody loved the book. And I'm like, that character as a woman would never do the things at the very end that would happen. And it made me so upset because I was so invested in her character, you know, that I was just torn apart by it.
Yeah.
Is there a book that you've read recently that everybody's hyping about that you're like, I just don't understand? Like, you know, your books, all three of them are so authentic and I can relate, and it's just inspiring, and they're all so different. You know, there's a lot of similarities, but there's so many differences, you know. But, you know, do you have a book?
Yes, but I would never name it.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't
That's
name
what I was
mine
gonna say.
either.
We're not going to say it.
So you don't have
Say
to,
it
but
out loud. Yes.
But often, right, there will be a book that is hugely talked about and sometimes loved by people I respect, some of the smartest people around. And then what usually gets me is there will be another book that I feel is trying to tell the same story or tell the same themes, and I felt did it more authentically or more uniquely. And then that other book doesn't get hardly any attention, and I just want to say, what about this one? So that's
Yeah.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
because that's how the book bubbles. People talk about it. It's not all just ads. So definitely say that. I'm just giving recommendations. That's how I sell books, is because you authentically love a book and the characters. And, you know, I think at different times too, like you're going through something in your life and something resonates with you more so than other times, or you don't like a book because something's going on in your head, or you're moving, or something's going on and you just can't resonate. But
Yep.
Yes. But nobody.
Can I point out another parallel? Because I'm sure once when you read books closely together, it's just you see parallels everywhere. But I saw in all three books also these women really needing connection. And I know where I got just this incredible feeling of joy and consolation and humor from Heather and Kristin's books. It's when you saw that these women were reaching out often to other women. And you know, and maybe being prickly, maybe not accepting the help. I think we all have characters in some way who are like, no, I don't need that. But you know you as a reader, you see what's happening. That
Absolutely.
Carol really does need connection. So I enjoyed that in both of your books.
Me
Those
too.
moments.
Yeah.
Yes. I asked you earlier in the green
Yeah,
room.
and I think
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, you know, just as a human, as I get older, I think for me that becomes more and more important, is that connection with women. I think I was less aware of it when I was younger,
Mhm.
and I become more and more aware of it all the time, you know, of how important it is and how important it is for my characters too. So
Yeah, I think in my book, I spend a lot of time on Evie's romantic relationships, but when I really think about it, like it's her friendship with Charlotte, this is the real love story in that book. Like that's
Yeah.
works on what lasts and sustains, and like what's one of her constant things that holds her up.
Yeah, when they're at that resort, that really sticks with me.
And I love the authenticity of it, because a lot of times you'll read a book and it's just surface characters. You don't get in depth. Yeah. And again, there's been a book that was talked about a couple of years ago that everybody loved. And I'm like, they didn't dig in. I didn't understand the characters. So all three of these books really get down and dirty with the characters. You feel their emotions. You're invested in them. So I hope you all get it. I just want to remind everybody there is the buy the button book in green on the bottom. You can just click that and we can mail it to you. We have signed copies, and you're in for a treat. Spring break's coming up, nicer weather's coming up. Go sit out by the beach or by the water on your deck and just have a cup of tea and relax and read these books, because you'll be so inspired, maybe even to write a book. So I asked you before too, Andromeda, what was the best compliment that you got from somebody that just shocked you and stayed with you? And I loved your response.
Oh, I sort of had two different responses, because we always have the formal and then the informal. And the formal was a reviewer comparing my book to A.S. Byatt's Possession, which is a book with a similar structure and puzzling over historic documents. And that was wonderful. But then more personally, I've heard from survivors of sexual assault, a couple people writing to me saying, feeling like they were seen, they were heard, because of the stories that are told in this book.
But you got compared to a classic. I mean, that's a real big pat on the back.
And it was a classic that when I was in the middle of writing my book, it's interesting how also like what you allow yourself to read before you write a book, and then in the middle. And sometimes when something is too close, I don't want to look at it in the wrong times. But Possession was one that I went back to when my book was almost done, but I just kept thinking it's really complex. How are readers going to deal with this structure? Our readers are going to accept these two different timelines and this mystery and how it unfolds. And so it was just consoling to go back to this other complex work and feel like, well, people liked it over here. So
yeah.
And
what about you, Kristin? What was your? I loved yours.
Well,
favorite response?
The formal one was the inclusion of Agatha art in People Magazine's
That's a big
Best
deal.
New Book list,
Yes.
which came out in November 2020 with Michael B. Jordan on the cover. I was like, whoop, whoop, which was very cool. But the reader review that just made me laugh out loud and felt this is so Agatha was a reader who actually said this book is amaze balls.
New word to incorporate in your next book. But.
I am. I'm going to get a T-shirt with a picture of the cover and with that quote on it.
That's so great. And Heather, this is your first debut novel. So what was your best quote that you have about your book?
Yeah, this is it. Well, Lee Smith blurbed my book, and Maggie Smith, which was just incredible.
No big deal.
Crazy that they even read it and like to be in that same universe with those two women. And like Maggie Smith, I thought really nailed it with her blurb when she talked about the connection between Hatteras Island and the Outer Banks with Evie and her character and the themes of the story. Shipwrecks and isolation and all of that. And then some of my other favorite things I've heard are just that mostly that people are connecting and identifying with Evie, even if like someone just said like she is nothing like me, and yet I identified with her completely, and I felt like that's what I needed to read right now. And then my other favorite was from someone who actually didn't like the book, but she said, "Well, I'll give you this. It's never boring." I will take that as a compliment. Thank you.
Thank you.
But it wasn't boring. I'll take it.
Can I say that I would like to have a rum drink with Evie, and I would like to have a margarita with Agatha?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So, Heather, you write and you have 3 young children at home. How?
No, it's not.
I didn't shave both legs most days when I had.
Yeah, it's crazy right now. Especially because I was going to, as of this fall, I was going to have the littlest one in preschool 2 mornings a week, and that was going to be my writing time. But like all that went down the tubes, and now, all of them are home, and we're virtual school, and it's nuts. But yeah, it's just crazy. I'm not getting a whole lot done. But yeah, like this several
I think
years
you're doing pretty well.
Hanging it. Hanging it.
You're doing okay.
But yeah, I found because I've been there. I mean, I've been staying home with them. I'm the primary caretaker, so that's kind of what I did for 7 or 8 years. And I didn't get a ton of writing done, but what I could do was to keep getting that, keep sending my book out, and that's kind of what I did until it stuck. It happened to hit. So, but yeah, feel like I'm just trying to claw my way back into being a writer, actually producing things.
So how long did it take you to write this book?
To write it took me 3 or 4 years. I honestly did this mostly during the course of my MFA, and then finished it up and revised it and started trying to get it out. But then in the meantime of that, I got married and moved and got pregnant and moved and got pregnant and moved and yeah.
Very fun.
Pattern here, Heather.
Are you moving yet, Heather? Do you have anything to tell us?
Not.
Any big news you want to share?
No more.
We can keep a secret. No.
That's been my
Well, I
life.
just can't imagine. What about you, Kristin?
Oh God, life has been insane. I have a 7-year-old boy with more energy than 45 people, who has been remote schooling since March, whatever, last year. And I have a new tween. She just she's a new teen. She's now a teenager. And she is fulfilling every stereotype you've ever seen of a teenage girl.
Is she you at that age?
Oh, absolutely. My mother's cracking up.
I apologize to my dad.
Yeah. It's and I have a day job, so I'm one of those statistics. I've been on leave since September because I just could not do all of it. So it's nothing.
And you know what? Be kind to yourself. I think more people need to do that because you can't do it all. There's so many balls up in the air and you just can't do them all well.
I wake up with guilt in the middle of the night and I'm like, what can you do? There's little else to be done.
Yes, we're just all trying to make it through the day. And that's why I really love.
I just make myself a margarita and get up again at 3 a.m. to write.
Oh, that's right. She gets up. I know from her Instagram, she gets up early, which I do.
Yeah,
not.
at 5 a.m., right?
I get up at 3 a.m. every day to write.
Oh, God.
What time do you go
at
to
my
bed?
desk.
Is this late for you?
The what?
Is this late for you to be up then?
No. I don't go in until like 9:30. I figure I'll sleep when I'm really old. But yeah, I'm at my desk by 3:30 with 2 giant mugs of coffee and
It's great.
the quiet house.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Oh, wow. And what about you, Andromeda?
I'm embarrassed to admit that my kids are grown up and out of the house. So I have a 22-year-old and a 26-year-old.
And you look like you're 32, so I don't know.
Well, thank you. It must be the filter. No, I'm kidding.
No.
I'm throwing spitballs at you.
So yeah, embarrassment is the wrong word. I remember, and I've been a writer my whole adult life. I was a freelance writer, and our kids we actually homeschooled our kids until high school. So what you guys are going through with the pandemic that was just everyday life. We lived in Alaska and I had a baby on my lap and a toddler. And that's how I was a full-time freelance journalist. So I remember that. I remember I've got to do the phone interview and I'm going to put on Lion King for 40 minutes and the kid's asleep for 20 minutes. And now I need to finish that query. I think I'm still recovering from that.
Exactly it.
While you celebrate your quiet solitude.
And now we have dogs. Now we have 2 dogs.
There you go.
Yeah.
We did the same thing. The kids moved out. We kept adding dogs. So we have 3. But so Andromeda, what is your day like? Do you wake up at a certain time?
I don't think I should say. I think my blooming friendship with these 2 women would be over.
Yeah. Don't even say it out loud.
Let's just say I have flexibility for the wake up. and then well, I probably do spend a little too much time on Instagram, but I don't know if we're going to get into the area of fears. That's one of the themes in Agatha Arch. We talked about our fears. One of my greatest fears today was that Kristin was going to ask me to speak Chinese. because I believe that she speaks Chinese, and I don't speak Chinese, but I study Chinese every day. So that's one of the things I do when I wake up. I'm studying Mandarin, mostly the writing system more than speaking. And that really was, I kept practicing a certain sentence all day today that I'm not going to say now, because I kept thinking, Kristin is going to say this question to me in Chinese. You know what it is, Kristin.
I do.
And I'm going to have to answer.
Oh, come on. We want to know. We want
But
to be
what's
on
funny
it.
is that we lived in China for 5 years, so which was just an amazing. I loved it more than anything. But we moved back. It's been like 10 years, and so while I spoke all the time when we lived there, I am so horribly rusty.
I'm sure.
Like,
yeah.
I am like, it's tough. It's tough. And I keep
lived
wanting,
in Mexico.
you know, I'm like,
I lived
in
in
what
Mexico
corner of
for
my
years.
life can I kind of, you know, make time to practice this again? I'm like, well, right now I'm gonna skip over it.
Yeah. So I only mentioned that because on Twitter she asked me the question. I was able to respond in writing. But anyway, so I do a little bit of study that it actually helps purify my mind a little bit. And then the rest of the day, my other gig is that I'm a book coach, which is something I absolutely love. I help people with their fiction manuscripts and memoirs, and that has actually been the most gratifying thing that I've done in our era of COVID, because I'm writing. I'm always working on multiple projects at multiple stages. You know, there's always the one that's being edited and the new one you're trying to start and all that. But helping people with their books is actually the thing that has kept me sane in the last year, because it's just more gratifying. I'm not worried about their sales. I'm just trying to help make their work better. And it's kind of more pure and more social.
That's fantastic. So that leads me, it's a perfect segue to my next question is, what do you have for advice for other authors? Because I have people that send out a couple manuscripts and they have their English teacher edit their book, and which is great. And it's great to have people read it and give you some feedback. But what is like the best advice that you wish you had had when you first started writing? Is it to get an agent? Is it?
I would say.
Yeah.
I would just say to listen to your own voice. I think that's one of the things that is hardest for people, to really to engage with their own voice and learn how to get that on the page in a consistent way. And you really have to listen to it and trust it, and don't listen to others who try to steer you away from it.
Well, all three of you have people in the books like trying to find themselves and trying to find, you know, who they are. So how do you find your voice if you don't know who you are? Did I stump you?
Writing. Nope.
Yeah.
You keep writing.
Keep writing.
Yeah, just keep writing. Yep.
That's a perfect answer. That's what I was going for. Awesome.
Yep.
I would add actually the thing. So this kind of takes us from the having young kids discussion onward. When I had very young kids, they helped me be a much more disciplined writer. I really would take advantage of 20 minutes at a time. Now that I'm older and we have the internet, it's not just social media and email. It's also that we have so much entertainment, like even great podcasts and things, that I think there's a temptation to be just entertaining yourself all the time.
Yes.
And what you need is actually to realize that most of the work you do is away from the desk. Juliana Baggett calls it a portable process. So not to feel so guilty that you can't be at your computer all the time, but then when you're not at your computer, when you're washing the dishes, going for a walk, it can be hard to remind yourself, right, don't do the audio messages and don't put on a podcast, because that's the time that you're plotting and working through your character. And so that's where I require discipline now, giving myself that scatter focus, mind wandering time. And so that's my biggest piece of advice, to make sure you don't keep flooding yourself with entertainment from the outside, because you really need to be thinking.
That's great advice. And Heather, what made you like give your manuscript to somebody and say, hey, this book is good enough to be published? Where did you come up with that confidence?
Well, I had, I think kind of along the lines of the first question and that one, I was lucky enough to find during my graduate school programs sort of the right group of readers and critique partners who, like, we just, like my friend Jen and I, we read everything that the other person writes, and it was the matter of finding someone who understood what I was trying to do and helped me propel it forward in a way that was true to my vision, and like I do the same thing for her. Like we kind of get what the other person is doing, and sort of that partnership has been hugely, hugely important to me, and several other people in my MFA too. Like lots of people some people like they don't get it, or they're the style is really different, or they're just trying to give you advice. But the people that like really helped or just like get what you want to do, and they're trying to help you do it in the best way possible for what you were trying to do with the project. So I think what gave me the confidence to kind of keep submitting it, I guess I had one meeting with a visiting author who read like one of the chapters in the book, and she said, like she sat down with me, and someone in the class had thought it was just like an exercise in voice, and she asked me, she was like, "What do you think about that?" And I thought, I don't know, I don't think it's right. Like I believed in that story. Like I didn't think it was just an exercise in voice. And she was like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, I didn't either. And she said, this is going to get published. And she said, like, if this was in a contest, it would rise to the top. And so that just that like one little interaction, like just gave me the confidence to like keep submitting it. And then I had, you get close calls. So you figure it's not all bad. Like it wouldn't have, been a semifinalist here or, gotten almost there if it was all bad. So, but yeah, like at some point I would just kind of, like, honestly, this last the contest that I sent it to, I thought to myself, well, if this doesn't stick or get close, I'm just going to like tear the whole thing apart and start over, maybe put it chronologically. But I still didn't even think about giving up. I don't know. Maybe I'm just really stubborn. Like that might be it. For some reason, I just like felt like it maybe had a chance to get in the world.
Well, I'm so glad it did.
Me
Andromeda,
too.
How did you feel when you first put it out there in the world?
Oh, this particular book?
Yes.
I've been around the block a few times.
No.
How did I feel when it came out in the world? It being COVID, I just had no idea what was going to happen. I mean, this is a very different environment. My first novel came out and I went on several book tours. But that was back in 2007. I mean, everything has changed. So each successive book has been in a very different publishing environment, different economic environment. It's always different. So this time it was like, okay, now COVID, how are we going to, how is a book going to be received? How are we going to interact with readers? If anything, I told my family, I don't want to forget this. I told my family the first week the book came out, this was my happiest launch ever. And I tend to be a pretty nervous, neurotic kind of person, but it was happier because I had more interaction with people online with the book launch than I had with the other books, even though I was touring physically in some cases.
Yeah, that becomes stressful. But
the touring, because I had young kids like when I was doing that was actually much harder, to be honest. Yeah,
a lot of authors are saying that. And Kristin,
but the other thing is just the changing. Oh no, I'm sorry. People it's readers who have sort of changed their approach. It's not just we writers. Readers reach out more now than they did just a couple of years ago. So I think there were readers who thought, well, why would I send an email? Why would I comment on Instagram? It's readers who are actually coming to understand that we authors actually do want to interact and connect. So the change is coming from both directions, and that's been nice.
Yeah, I always tell people who read a book that loved it, contact the author, contact them on Instagram or on Twitter or Facebook, because it does make a difference. And then talk about it to your friends, because selling that book for them is a great opportunity. Kristin, are you a multimillionaire now that you have all your books out? And how did you?
I just sit around in the lap of luxury.
Yeah. People think authors are so rich.
Yes.
Which unfortunately they're not.
We need to dispel them of that. No, I've had a great launch. This is the most fun I've had with any of the three books. It's just been a blast. I mean, Agatha herself is so much fun. So it's really been an opportunity. Like even just doing the marketing has been fun because I've been able to kind of channel her voice and her way of doing things, which is a little out of the box. So I've had a blast. I love connecting with readers. I love doing events. I love talking. It's been great. Tiring.
I'm shocked you're awake.
Good.
I'm still shocked. I'm still shocked you're awake. Because you've now been up for almost 24 hours, I think. And you're not good at math. But
chasing that crazy boy.
Again, there is a buy the button book on the bottom. We can send them out anywhere. We have access to the post office, so we can do that. And we also have an ask the question button. We have one question here if you want to put some on there too. Let's start with Andromeda. If your book was to be turned into a movie, who do you envision playing your lead character? And we'll ask Kristin, and Heather after. The same question.
Oh, why did I have to go first? I'm
Start with an A.
my problem with, so I love adaptations. I do. My problem is that like a lot of my favorite actors are older. I keep thinking of much older actresses, the ones I really, love. And I'm not keeping up with the names of the younger actresses. So I gotta get better about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather have it be an up and comer that no one has ever seen before, a fresh face.
Yeah.
It's not gonna, so I don't have a good name to attach.
I say Reese Witherspoon for everything.
But see, I think you're kind of,
Yes.
Exactly.
Heather?
Yeah, I actually love Reese Witherspoon. That would be fantastic. I had the same kind of issue though. Like I thought Kristen Bell would make a good Evie, even though she's blonde, she'll dye her hair dark because Evie is brunette. But then some of my friends pointed out that she's way too old. But I don't know who the young ones are, so I'm just gonna stick with
She's
Kristen Bell.
30.
Yeah, she's kind of quirky and funny, and she was Anna. Like I think she would be a good Evie.
She was Anna.
Stick with it.
Or like, I'll always say like Charlize Theron. I'm thinking of your character. It's like, no, that's way too old.
I know.
But she looks
someone
great.
said to me in
great.
another event, they said, "How about Sandra Bullock?" I was like, "Sandra Bullock's like 90 now."
She isn't.
Sandra Bullock type. We want a Sandra Bullock type.
Yeah,
That's right.
You're Bullock-ish.
That is so true.
And Kristin, who's Agatha?
Oh God, I've had a couple of ideas. I love Maggie Gyllenhaal,
Oh, I do too.
Yeah, I could see that.
and she kind of
She would be great.
plays borderline characters. I don't want somebody too over the top.
She's just quirky
And-
enough, but
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, and then I thought, well, Elizabeth Moss,
Oh,
Mad Men, and I think she's primed for a comedic role.
Mhm.
I think she needs something funny. I'd love to see what she does with it.
Good
Yeah.
answers. Yeah.
So we'll see.
does anybody else have any other questions? We have people here from Alaska.
Mhm.
I mean, there's people from all over. This is fascinating. I'm very excited. Well, one thing you want to put out there. I did actually have one more question that I wanted to ask you before we think about like the one thing you want to put out there to let people know like this book is real, authentic, and it's coming from your heart. But what was your most embarrassing moment ever, either on a book tour or do you have one you want to share? No? Do you have a
Who's jumping
song
in?
that is when you're listening to some music, it goes with this book, or a playlist that goes with this book?
Oh, I
You?
created a playlist. I did that. There's someone who has a blog who does a playlist for your book. So I did a playlist. I started off with what's the title? It's that Pink song, and it goes na 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 na.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I started off with.
Keep going, Heather. Keep going.
Ready to start a fight. Yeah.
So what? That's what it's called. So what?
Yes.
Now, Heather, was that the Large-Hearted Boy blog? Is that the name of it? Okay, Large-Hearted
Yeah.
Boy. Just so people can look that up. Yeah, because I've done that one too.
You did that one too, yeah.
Yeah. And so my top song is called The Cabin or Cabin by the Secret Sisters. And it's a really creepy song. And I only found out about it after the book was all done, but I was trying to make a playlist and looking for just the right song, and then listen to this one, and it just gave me the shivers. So I recommend that people look up that song. Yes.
Yeah, it's like
I'm gonna
weird.
go look that up.
Weirdly congruent with what happens in your book. Like it's
It's yes, it would be like the soundtrack to a movie version of the book. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
I love this. I love that there's soundtrack.
I would go with the theme to Rocky. Bum bum ba-da-dum, 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 which Agatha often plays, to kind of rev herself up. She gets her Bear Grylls bobblehead, she gets that song going, and she's gonna chase that interloper into the woods.
That is fantastic. If you could share those with us. Do any of you have a blog post that you put out there for people to follow, or a podcast?
Nope.
Not yet.
I have not done that yet.
That's
Nope.
during pandemic dilemma, the things that we can do.
But we're all on Instagram, and our
Instagram.
captions
We're,
get
yeah,
so long.
Instagram's the place.
The
to go.
captions are long enough to be like blog posts. So
Yeah,
So can you go around and
the
tell us,
most.
or put if you could put in the comment section what your Instagram following is? Everybody can follow you.
oh yeah. Let's see.
And we are going to be replaying this on YouTube by the end of the week or beginning of next. Yeah, by the end of the week, it should be up there. I want to let you all go because I know Kristin has to go to bed. I'm thinking about her being up at 3 a.m. And I can't thank you enough. This was a lot of fun. And let's go out with one thing you want to share about your book. Let's start with you, Kristin.
Oh my gosh. Go read Agatha. She'll make you laugh out loud. And that book is amazeballs.
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 Heather?
Let's see. Let's go out with rollicking literary beach read set on Hatteras Island. So if you need a beach fix and an escape during pandemic life, pick up The Baddest Girl.
Nice. Andromeda.
Those are fun. My book is a little more serious, but I will say if you've ever wondered about changing the past, what you would change if you could, and if you're a little angry, whether you're a woman or not a woman, if you're a little bit angry, Annie and the Wolves might be for you.
Yes. So here we are, Annie and the Wolves. And Agatha Art is Afraid of Everything. Great covers. Great covers. And The Baddest Girl on the Planet. You can pick them all up here at page 158 books. You can do curbside pickup. You can come on in and browse, or we can mail it to you. So thank you all so much for tuning in. You have been a wonderful panel, and I can't wait to meet you all in person, give you great big hugs, maybe at a book conference. Thank you all so much. Again, Baddest is there.
Thank you.
And have a great night. Good luck on the rest of the tour, everybody.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.